Welcome to the What Bitcoin Did podcast.
Hello there, how are you all? Are you all having a great week? I'm pretty relaxed right now. I'm having a lovely holiday. I'm out in Cambodia, having an amazing time. I do, though, have my mic with me. I've got to record these intros and outros so I can get the shows out for you. So anyway, hello. Welcome to the What Bitcoin Did podcast, which is brought to you by Kraken, who have the most comprehensive suite of tools available for Bitcoin traders. Go and check them out. But you're well. I just noticed that Bitcoin is back close to 12k. I haven't really been looking at the price. I've been kind of chilling, sending the odd tweet. Did it go over 12k? I don't really know. I'm not going to check, but it's nice to see that Bitcoin is rallying again. The price is good. It's always good for bringing people back into Bitcoin. We all know that a new all-time high is going to set the mainstream media off. We're going to have a whole bunch of our friends phoning up and saying, is it too late? Is it too late for Bitcoin? It's never too late for Bitcoin. Anyway, I've got the perfect show for you this week, going down the Bitcoin rabbit hole. I've got an interview with Matt Odell, and we're also joined by his good buddy, who he also shares the mic with for the Tales of the Crypt podcast and Rabbit Hole Recap, Marty Bent. He was with us for half of it. We managed to have a couple of whiskeys, talk about Bitcoin, so it's a great show. But before that, I do have a message from my show sponsors. So firstly, today's show is brought to you by the amazing and mighty BlockFi. You know how much I love these. Supported the show for nearly a year. We're coming up to our anniversary, so a big thanks to them. And I just got my latest interest payment from BlockFi for my Bitcoin interest account, which is very nice. It's really nice how my Bitcoin is working for me every month, and I know people are a little bit unsure about these Bitcoin interest accounts. If you are, you should go to SoundCloud and check out my interview with Zach Prince. He covered all that, but I love it. I love my Bitcoin's working for me, and you know what? With a BlockFi interest account, you can earn interest every month on your Bitcoin, Ether, or even GUSD. Also, with BlockFi, you have access to crypto-backed loans, where you can take a loan out against your Bitcoin, your Ether, or your Litecoin. And also, recently, I got together with the BlockFi CEO, Zach Prince, and Jeremy Alfacasa to discuss their recent partnership and getting some Bitcoin juicy stuff. So definitely go check that out. But if you're interested in finding out more about BlockFi, which you should be, head over to blockfi.com, which is BLOCKFI.com. Also, today's show is brought to you by the mighty Kraken, the best exchange in the world. You know they are. You know if you're using any other exchange, you're using an inferior product. Kraken are the best. And for so many reasons. Not only the security stuff, which I've been waxing lyrical for ages and did my interview with Nick Pococo about that. They have the best security for any exchange in the industry. But also they've got the most comprehensive set of tools for traders in the market. Okay, so we start with Kraken.com, the best place to buy, sell and trade digital currencies. You can also margin trade with up to 5x leverage. They've got futures, they've got indices, they've got the Kraken OTC desk for large trades, they've got Crypto Watch where you can trade multiple exchanges from a single platform. And for you advanced traders out there, they have the best account management service in the market. If you're not using Kraken, why? Come on. It's the only place I use now for buying and selling Bitcoin. So join me in supporting Kraken, the best exchange in the world. Head over to kraken.com, which is Kraken.com. All right, so onto the show, onto the episode I have with Matt and Marty. And you know what? Their show is my go-to show when I'm on a long drive. I always love flicking on Tales from the Crypt or the Rabbit Hole Recap, especially I'm doing like a nice long drive from LA to San Fran and get through 3 or 4 shows, just embed myself in this full-on Bitcoin chats. I love it. Love the show. Love everything Marty's doing. But I also have really come to enjoy everything Matt's contributing to it as well. You know, he was on the show before. He joined me around Christmas time. We did a show looking at the future of Bitcoin in 2019, which was great. But that was along with Neil Woodfine. But I've always wanted to get Matt back on his own. So when I was in New York, I said to Matt, I said, come on, let's do a show. And he was keen. So we did it. And also Marty joined us for the first half, which was great. And we sunk some whiskeys and we got into Bitcoin. And I really appreciate the different perspectives they both bring. Look, Matt is full on. Matt is hardcore. And whilst Marty's very similar, he's also a little bit, a little bit quieter, a little bit more even keel. So they make a really good match. So that's why their show's so awesome. I think it's the best in the market. So you should definitely check it out if you haven't listened to it. Yeah, so we get into a whole bunch of Bitcoin stuff. We talk about why the Bitcoin community is great, why the USD community sucks, it's totally toxic. We talk about SegWit, contentious half fork, Libra, Black Mirror, a whole bunch of stuff. Do you know, I could have probably sat with Matt for about 5 hours and just shot the shit with him. But yeah, I loved it. And if you've got any questions about it, do reach out to me. My email address is hello@whatbitcoindid.com. As I said, I'm away right now. I'm on holiday. I haven't got too much else to say. I'm recording this while my kids are sleeping. So listen, I'm going to get this out. Hope you're all well, though. If you do have any questions, do hit me up. And yeah, I'll catch up with you soon. We're recording, by the way. Cheers. We're on.
Cheers.
Wow. Cheers.
It's been a pleasure. Pleasure of a day.
I'm glad we made this happen.
Yeah. How's it going?
Like I said, it's a hell of a day. We just finished an episode. Before that, I had to lunch and I had to write. It's been a whirlwind.
In one day?
Yeah.
What, recording out in a day?
Yeah. Well, that's what Rabbit Hole. You just rip it.
Yeah, we just ripped Rabbit Hole. And then we posted it too, and then we came here.
Actually, I posted one today. I posted Jeremy and Zach Prince.
Mm-hmm.
Can never miss those deadlines, right?
Oh no. Rabbit Hole recap, especially. That's what I learned early on. People just showing up, consistency.
When was the last time we only missed one Rabbit Hole recap ever, I think. 1 week ever. It was like early on, and we just felt like completely horrible.
I feel like it was around like New Year's, yeah. Yeah. It's good. That's what I learned with the bent too. Consistency, just showing up every day has been the best recipe.
18 months, I think I've missed one, and I think it went out on a Saturday rather than a Friday. And I think I was over here, and whatever reason, shit didn't happen. But
you get pissed at yourself though, don't you?
Yeah, you do. And also, I actually get pissed at the time of the day because I think it affects it. I like to get mine out lunchtime UK, which is morning New York, kind of like 10 New York.
It's a 5-hour difference, isn't it?
5-hour difference, but I kind of want it to come out for the morning, as best the morning I can for East Coast and West Coast. So I'm like, if I hit kind of 8 a.m., 8 a.m. West Coast, and then it's like 10, 11 a.m. for the East Coast, and then UK is just after lunch, like, it's early afternoon-ish, and then whatever the fuck for the rest of the
Well, I
day.
feel like best for Twitter engagement is usually like 2 p.m. New York time, which
lunchtime?
what is that? That's like 1900 UK time.
See, that's too late for the UK.
Yeah.
See, I'm trying to get everyone while they're either in work or in the morning, because once you put the tweet out, you want everyone to be aware at the same time. It probably doesn't make any fucking difference.
No, yeah. I mean, the real listeners are subscribed on the podcast apps
Exactly.
anyway, right?
No, that's what I've been trying to ascertain too. Because, again, just doing it on the whim like we do sometimes. Like we posted today at 3:30, 4
on
o'clock
a Friday,
on a Friday.
on like a beautiful Friday.
Yeah.
Where like everyone is on their way to the beach or something, or at least getting drunk.
We're getting drunk.
There you go.
We are. What are we drinking here? Whistle Pig.
Yeah, but it's a special one that's been finished in 2 different wine casks. I was like, I can't turn up with a shit whiskey for these 2 guys. So,
Yeah, I'm always pleased when someone brings something that I haven't tried too. It's quite good.
yeah, I like
Very
it.
good.
I'm also learning about the combination of guests and show titles make a big difference, but it becomes a conflict because there's certain things you want to touch, certain topics, certain people you want to talk to. I kind of starting to understand that whole world of clickbait now.
SEO.
Yeah.
It's a big thing. I've been doing that intentionally with the bent. Like when I wrote about the OHM, the data center earlier this week, the metadata title for that is Bitcoin is bad for the environment. And it was an article about how Bitcoin is good for the environment. But you had to play that game.
Yeah, well, look, I know if I do Tour de Mise on, and the show's something like Bitcoin's going to the moon, that show's going to fucking fly, right? But you can't do it every week. I really wanted to do this Nick Pokoko one, the chief security officer at Kraken Security. He's great. He's really good. If you could meet him and do him, he's brilliant. But I know he's unknown, so whatever happens, it's going to be one of my lower performing shows. And I'm trying to say to people, listen to this because it's a great show.
Well, he's going to be unknown until you make him known, right? That's
Yeah, I
part
guess
of the
so.
beauty of it. I mean, that's like the Palm Style with his Murad episode. You remember that one?
Yeah.
Which is a fantastic episode, but the way he promoted it was, we're all going to get rich, and like listen to this episode about how.
He knew he'd hit a great
Yeah.
show with that one. I'm seeing him tomorrow, actually. I'm having a beer with him tomorrow. But he knew he was onto something. But you got to cover the other stuff. You got to cover the other people.
No, that's like when I was first starting up. That was like my aim was to find people that were like sort of under the radar and bring them on to talk with them. And that's what, like some of my favorite episodes, like Eric Spano, excuse me, like the dude who originally owned My Bills and now he's like just doing Big Four random consulting. That was like one of my favorite, but like he's like 300 followers on Twitter and nobody knows much about him. But
Yeah, I think the pods when I don't know who the person is are usually better. I mean, you need a balance. You need to be authentic, but you also need to be a little bit clickbaity. And you need to troll a little bit. Like Pierre today was getting shit for his beautiful troll tweet that was Bitcoin literally solves every problem in the world. And like guys, like you don't know exactly what he's doing. Like it's clear what he's doing. Like let him have a little bit of fun. I fucking laughed out loud when I saw it.
I was trolling Giacomo today. I was using a random nonsense generator to reply to every one of his well-articulated, confusing points about global warming. Because I actually don't understand the majority of his tweets. They go over my head. I'm too thick. So I just went on a random nonsense generator replying. But I've been trolling the carnivore, modern art is terrible, global warming denial side of Bitcoin this week.
I mean, you're just trying to get us in trouble. Like I'm not going to comment on any.
I'll comment. I think there was a good. I think it was Nick Szabo came out of the woodwork yesterday. So there is there's different communities within Bitcoin. Like there's people who fall into like Bitcoin and carnivore.
There is absolutely a Bitcoin community. I fucking love them. I love being part of it. There won't be a Bitcoin community when we become the global reserve asset and every single person's a Bitcoiner. But like right now, like there's clearly a Bitcoin community. Like there's
but there's also little subgroups and subcultures, if you will.
But that was Szabo's point, right? He was like, "There's no community because no one should be excluded from Bitcoin."
Right. I liked it and retweeted the tweet.
Yeah,
we're bringing Pierre back into this. Bitcoin is for enemies. It's his proclamation.
Was supposedly he like retweeted the guy who we were supposed to follow, who was the first person to say it today.
Boss.
Which is what I love about Pierre.
I haven't done that yet.
I loved your episode with John Carvalho. Recently, that's probably my favorite show.
That was a fun one.
True OG.
So good.
He was somebody who, honestly, I clung to. It was like a linger on Bitcoin Twitter back in 2013, 2014. Bitcoin error log. He didn't have his avatar. It was like an exclamation point or something like that back in the day. But just as an anon account to me back in the day, he was somebody who provided a lot of quality insight, and being able to sit down and talk to him was awesome.
I mean, I was super excited because you invited me in. That was like my third interview with you or second interview with you.
Mm-hmm.
So I always get.
I didn't want that one to end. That was just one of those quality discussions that just went on, and you're just like, I was just fully engrossed because I think I've told you, I only listen to yours when I'm driving. It's become a driving one for me. It's not a gym podcast because I don't know. I just feel like I have to engross myself. So actually, this is a true fact. Twice when I've traveled from LA to San Francisco, I've hired a car rather than drive because there's only about an hour difference, and I've done 3 of your shows because it's the time to listen to it in the car. But the John one was really fucking good.
I'm flattered. I'm still in disbelief that anybody listens to.
Well, the reason we stopped the John one was because he literally had to go straight to the airport afterwards.
Yeah.
And we were all hungover from the Dragon Energy night.
From the Blockstream party the night before.
Open bar.
I tell you where I got my background to really respecting him was when I was looking at maybe doing some of covering the S2X stuff. I went back through the email threads. Have you been through them all?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people, and I'm not going to name names, throw anyone under the bus, but who essentially are accepting of what's coming and talking about the technical side, what needs to happen, the considerations. But John's just in there going, fucking, can't fucking do this. You shouldn't be fucking do this. I mean, I don't know his exact words, but he was in there.
He was probably cursing.
Yeah, but he was in there standing up saying, you shouldn't be doing this. You can't be doing this. And I was like, I didn't know all this. Obviously, I'm newer into Bitcoin than you guys and had a huge amount of respect for him. So we ended up making a show called Defending Bitcoin, but I love that one he did.
Yeah, no, he's, again, that was going back to 2016, 2017, leading up to the fork wars, you shouldn't be doing this. Again, he was somebody who was a voice of reason. It was crazy. We didn't know what was going to happen. I was legitimately scared before Bitcoin Cash forked.
Oh, I wasn't at all. I was super excited for it. I took it completely different than most people, I think. I think it proved my Bitcoin maximalism, it brought it to the forefront because I think that it proved that a contentious fork of Bitcoin isn't the end of the world. And if it's a shitty fork, it will trend to zero and just be a shitty fork, and you can get a free dividend out of it by selling it for Bitcoin. But if you don't have conviction, you can do nothing and you'll be fine. And if for some reason we have something that definitely needs to be upgraded in Bitcoin and it hits some kind of critical mass, and you have the respected devs and the coming around it and supporting it and doing actual proper due diligence and exploring the trade-offs and everything that happens. Like if we hit that critical mass, then that fork could then become the dominant chain. And that's, I think, if once you realize that, then you really see how inevitable Bitcoin is, right? So like that proved it out for me. Like I had that theory, and then I intentionally tweeted it so I could say "told you so," and then Bitcoin Cash happened, and I'm like, "told you so," right?
Well, no, I agree. Like afterwards, like the aftermath proved that it was like a great thing for Bitcoin overall. But before, like with the posturing of the miners and stuff like that, like the quote unquote 90% of hash power that was going to follow it, and stuff like that.
SegWit 2x was more dangerous than Bitcoin Cash in a lot of ways, because like they didn't have replay protection and stuff in place. So it was going to be like particularly messy when it actually went down.
It turned out to be particularly messy when they tried to make it go down.
Yeah, I mean, well, they backed out at like the last second, but it was still run, and then it had the off by one bug, right? So everything would have froze. But like I said, I don't think that was ever going to happen. I mean, a bunch of us were calling that SegWit 2x was dead in the water. Just incentives, right? Like you look at the people who were promoting SegWit 2x, and it was a very aggressive plan, and they are major Bitcoin stakeholders. So like there was no reason, especially at that point we had SegWit, there was no reason to risk their golden goose to try and push through this change, and that's why they backed out at the last second, right? But it got pretty obvious within like 4 months, 5 months up to SegWit 2x, where I was like loading up on Bitcoin, and I was just like, there's no way this happens. And look what happened. Like we hit all-time highs after Bitcoin Cash and SegWit 2x. We hit all-time highs. It was a net positive. I think it taught a lot of people about the value prop of Bitcoin, how Bitcoin works. And then meanwhile, Bitcoin Cash has just gone down since the fork, right? Like people say, oh, Bitcoin Cash is down. Like you have to, at the time of fork, before it was traded on any markets, it was 1-to-1. Everyone got 1-to-1. That's where that when you talk about all-time high in terms of Bitcoin, that's where it is. And what is it down? Like 99% or like 98% from 1-to-1, if you count it. Like people say like, oh, it opened up on exchanges at 20%. Nah, if they want to pretend that it was the real Bitcoin at any point, then they have to accept that it was at 1-to-1 at one point and just like completely capitulated.
Do you think it'll ever happen again? Another contentious fork like this? I know it could, but do you think it will?
I don't want to say never.
Of course it will happen again. Anyone can fork if they want to. That's the beauty of Bitcoin. It's going to happen many times. Most of them will be complete
Forget the shit forks. The pointless, who cares, nobody cares anymore. Like,
but Bitcoin Cash was a shit fork.
No, what I mean is like, yeah, but that was a real community split. Are there any things coming up, any topics that you think might split people again?
But I don't think it was a real community split, because if you look at every single metric, including like futures prices and where it opened on the market and stuff, it was very much a minority split. It was like 20 to 30% max.
But that's still a significant group.
I don't know if it's that significant.
30% is significant to me.
Yeah, but again, that's like the nature of the system. That 30% of people better make sure they have a lot of fucking hash power. I think if it proved anything, like again, like my worries were calmed after the hard fork of the system. The incentives proved to work, and I think that instance in particular, the SegWit 2x and Bitcoin Cash and the aftermath that we witnessed, and shit, it's been 2 years, right? 3 years almost. 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah, 2 years.
Yeah.
It feels so long ago.
Do you see the hash rate tweet today that went around?
What, the Ethereum hash rate?
No, the comparison of hash rates of Bitcoin Cash and SV. Like, isn't hash rate dominance 97%?
97%, yeah.
But it's been like that for a bit now. I've been waiting for an attack patiently, and it hasn't happened. So.
But I think, again, going back to long term, the incentives are aligned to the never hard fork. And I can't see, to answer your question, I can't see somebody hard forking and a majority of people moving to that chain.
Well, first of all,
I just don't think that the shelling point is there.
You said it yourself, right? What is it, the 2140 bug or whatever?
It's the 2038 bug, but it will not affect Bitcoin until 2140,
right?
No, that's when the last Bitcoin will be mined. It's like 2106 or something like that.
Okay, but there needs to be a hard fork before then, right?
Presumably, yes.
Yeah. And there might be other things. Look, all I'm saying is, like you said, never say never, right? It would have to be.
I'm talking about like crazy consensus changes. That's like
Oh,
inevitable
crazy.
if we
Yeah.
do not do that. Like,
So I was with John Newbury today, and we were talking about incentive structures and one of the things he was talking about that he worries about, that what's going to happen when the subsidy, I think he was like 9 years' time, so we'll have had 3 more halvings, so the subsidy would have halved 3 times. And if we don't have enough on-chain transactions, what happens to the incentives for miners? And he's like, this needs to be talked about. People are scared of talking about it because if there's any discussion around, say, inflation as a potential solution, it's like, fuck you, we're not discussing this. We're never going to have more than 21 million. But at the same time, it is something that needs to be thought about. Could you ever see potentially that might end up becoming a contentious fork where one solution is a Bitcoin which has an inflation to replace the subsidy and one that continues without it? Because that sounds to me that could become something that would be very contentious.
Yeah, I mean, I find solace in the fact that I think this conversation is premature, and I think that if we ever hit like a critical mass where a tail emission was necessary, like we would fork in a tail emission. But I don't think it actually will be necessary. I think we will have, I think there'll be a lower bound on fees because it is such a desirable block space that there'll pretty much be like a perpetual backlog with a lower bound on fees, and it shouldn't be an issue. But there are like discussions about stuff like fee sniping and things like that in an extended backlog type of environment. And yeah, like I said, premature. If there's ever a critical mass, then we can fork then. Like, there's no reason to talk about it now.
dirty man talking about forking like that.
Yeah.
No, but I would agree. I don't think I am bullish on the ability that we'll be able to solve this problem without tail emissions because for many reasons, like Matt alluded to earlier, like block space is going to be demanded. Like people are going to want to transact in a P2P censorship resistant way, and they will pay the price for that, which is a fee in the Bitcoin system. And on top of that, like worried about demand to create fees and stuff like that, like the fact that we have something like Lightning already sort of not, I don't know what to call it, mature, that I think it's premature to call it mature at this point, but already pretty extensive in its reach and the amount of capital working on that network. That brings into something that a lot of people like to talk about, just Jevons paradox, which is like just the being able to leverage Bitcoin via Lightning on that second layer drives demand for block space, which will eventually, like if we're thinking to the future, I envision more systems like Lightning being built on Bitcoin driving that demand, and Jevons paradox will come into play where the utility of the block space and the tools built on top of it will drive demand and drive fees.
And a lot of crazy shit's going to happen over the next few years. You know, one of the things I've really enjoyed is reading your email. You know how much I love it because I'm constantly telling everyone to fucking
Thank you for pumping. I'm always flattered when I see you
No,
tweet
but
it out.
it's so good. Like, there's like 3 emails I read. I actually, I really enjoyed Pomp's email. Not all of them, but there's the odd one comes in. I'm like, that's really good.
You have to pay for that, right?
Well, he offered it to me for free, but I paid for it because like I wanted to pay
What
for
is
it.
the cost?
It's like $100 for the year. I think that's fine. I've got no problem with people charging for it. Your email, what I've really enjoyed in your emails though is the ones where you talk about the broader macro issues happening right now, especially in the US and the European economy and rampant money printing, the threat of negative interest rates, all this stuff. It's all new to me, by the way, but that might be the perfect storm that will drive Bitcoin forward in the next few years. And it's that weird scenario where you want Bitcoin to succeed, but it might succeed based on a bunch of bad shit happening. And I don't want to celebrate bad shit. Do you know what I mean?
No, I know exactly what you mean.
Conflicted as
And this
fuck.
is sort of what Ben Hunt from Epsilon Theory was yelling at me about a couple of weeks ago. Is like, you don't want to be that curmudgeon gold bug that's waiting on the end of the world. And I do not see myself or Bitcoiners as those curmudgeon-y gold bugs throughout the world. And like a lot of the conversations I've had on the podcast where people were very pessimistic about the state of the world and pessimistic about their futures before they got into Bitcoin because they didn't think there was a way out of this stuff that's unfolding on the macro landscape. And while yes, it's heavy that this stuff, that Bitcoin may succeed if the ills of money printing that we predict will happen, it's not, Bitcoin is not bad in and of itself because that's happened. Like we're lucky that we had this escape valve And then on top of that, like, this stuff can go on a lot longer. And that's the one thing I've learned throughout my quote-unquote career since I've graduated high school. Or excuse me, I would say high school. Is that you think this stuff's right around the corner, but it can go on and on for a while. And you just want to, as an individual, be prepared for when I do believe it will eventually happen at some point. The unraveling of this monetary system that we've sort of built up, this Frankenstein system that we have. I don't want to predict it, put a date on it, but you just want to be ready. And Bitcoin's provided the opportunity to create a sort of life raft in this situation.
Two quick things I'd add there, because I've gotten talking down to in the same way as Ben did, particularly through rich individuals who I've tried to shill Bitcoin to. You know, everyone should try, and if you have access to like a billionaire, you should try and shill Bitcoin to them. That anti-gold bug argument, I would say Bitcoin has two different things that are going for it. The first thing is, I think Bitcoin will be successful whether or not the bad shit happens. And then the second thing is, the bad shit seems like it's inevitable regardless of Bitcoin. So that's a little bit different than, I would say, like the gold bug argument, where like they always do the straw man too against the gold bugs, which is a little bit unfair, where they're like, oh, they're hoarding their gold and their guns and stuff, and they're waiting for the end of the world, and that's never going to happen. You know, I have the uncle who's always doing that or whatever, which is like it's a bit of a straw man. But I think with Bitcoin, like even if we have best case scenarios, like Bitcoin still flourishes. Like we see, like in an extended bull market like we have now, like a government fueled bull market, Bitcoin is doing fantastic.
But what is successful? You said it will be successful. Like, it already fucking is, right? I mean, that's where the conversation with John Newbery came from, because he said, you know, he referred to Bitcoin as an experiment. Will it succeed? And my reply to that was, look, everything has a shelf life. Driving your car will have a shelf life. There will come a time when it will be illegal to drive a car because it's too dangerous. You know, having a home telephone has a shelf life. Everything, like Bitcoin might have a shelf life where it survives for 20 years, 100 years, 500. Nobody knows. But I think we're beyond experiment now because it's being used.
Yeah, I mean, I said this on our first episode that we ever recorded when he was just interviewing me in the TFTC interview series, because Matt Corallo had just said that Bitcoin has like a 5% chance of success. And, you know, these guys, they're scientists, they're engineers, you know, like.
But they have to think adversarially as well.
Right, but
they also are most intimately abreast of the technical capabilities.
Yeah, and they're being responsible about it, right? And then it's up to us to be like the bulltards, you know.
But like, I use it now regularly. I use Bitcoin regularly, and it works.
Bitcoin's fantastic. Yeah. We love Bitcoin.
So what I'm saying is, it's not an experiment anymore for me. It is a real thing that's a part of my life outside of the podcast. Just like I have a bank account, I have Bitcoin, I have a phone. Like, it's just a thing I use now.
Yeah, and we can argue that it's worked since January 3rd, 2009. As long as it's producing blocks in a peer-to-peer distributed fashion, it's working. It has no idea that we're sitting here recording about it or the price that we put on it. Like, as a system, it's just worked, give or take a couple blocks.
I don't see us get to that time where we're all going to sit down and go, oh, we're here now, it's done.
We've succeeded.
Yeah, we succeeded. Bitcoin did it. Like, because it's either always a perpetual beta, or it's you don't say always, you just say it's a perpetual beta, or it's succeeded. I don't know. I think we're there.
It's like anything in life. Like, if we humans ever said at any point in time, like, we made it, we're done. We're done building. Like, things are going to continue progressing, right?
Yeah.
One step forward at a time, right?
Do you know Matt's probably the primary reason my podcast went Bitcoin only? Do you know this?
No, I did not know.
Yeah. So I'll tell you what happened. I was minding my own business, listening to a Stephan Livera show, and Matt was on it. And they were talking about other Bitcoin podcasts. And Matt was like, talking about the shows he likes, and then he said, and I like some of the stuff Pete does. And I was like, fuck. That's crushed me.
That's the one thing you'll come to love about Matt Odell. He'll be straight to the point.
So I got on Telegram. I was like, you've made me think. We had a conversation, didn't we? And I was like, I'm thinking of doing this. And I can't remember what you said, but yeah.
For me, I mean, I got like, well, I've wanted to be Bitcoin only from the beginning. Like, it was like I got burned too many times, and it was just like, there's enough in Bitcoin, and if this is like a long-term game, like, I don't see Bitcoin not being at least very successful, if not like as successful as we view it will be. So there's so much to talk about. There's so much to do, and that's like the other thing is, if we're talking about like the overarching landscape of quote unquote crypto and all the altcoins, like there's only a scarce amount of brain power that can be put on this space as well. Like I think it's most worthwhile to focus on our best chance at having a peer-to-peer distributed system for money. And Bitcoin, by any metric, is the best chance at this point in time.
I mean, there's so much noise in the space. The simplest way to cut through that noise is to just focus on Bitcoin only. Anything else takes like a lot of active filtering because there's just so much fucking shit. You can just cut out 99% of the shit if you do it. The second thing is a lot of times I get shit from the so-called crypto people about, you know, I pretty much never say crypto. I actually like cringe inside every time I hear the word. But the thing is, like, all these motherfuckers live in a Bitcoin world. Like, when I say Bitcoin, I mean every shitcoin. I mean all the fiat. I mean all of it. It's just all part and underneath the Bitcoin ecosystem. You know, like Ethereum in like a far enough way is like a Bitcoin dApp. Like it is legitimately, you know, whether you think it's a scam or whether you don't, it's a use case of Bitcoin is to gamble on Ethereum.
Ooh. I'm tweeting that out as soon as I get out of here. Matt Odell says that Ethereum is a Bitcoin dApp.
I'm sure that will not have any controversy.
I think the thing was, you said you got burned. I was making money on shitcoins when I started, so I had a vested interest in them, and then I lost all my money.
One of my favorite threads, by the way.
Yeah, so you know what? It's gone though. It did really well. It got to like 9,000 fucking likes or something. But I started tweet deleter. Because I started having people like old tweets, and I was like, "Fuck, did I say that? That's so moronic." So everything over 40 days is gone now.
I'm conflicted on that one. I kind of like
you're talking to the number one tweet stamper in the world right now.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like that you deleted like shitcoin promotions and stuff.
Yeah,
in there as well. But I kind of love the idea that you can go back and look. And usually, if I see someone who deletes often, like I understand like you deleted your old shit, but maybe turn it off from now on. Now that you're more educated,
force
more
somebody into a decision they don't want to make. People can do whatever they want with their
all
tweets.
I'm saying is it allows the charlatans and the scammers to like hide amongst us if we tolerate that kind of activity, because they do it too, and they're not held accountable for the countless bullshit that they pump and promote and all this shit. Because if everyone is doing it, then no one gets accountability. And I think that accountability is important. I think like if Crypto Man ran, which actually doesn't delete his tweets, which I'm like, he doesn't delete that many tweets, which I'm like super impressed about. I mean, he can go fuck himself, but like he should have accountability when he tells people like in the at the end of last bull market that they should be in 90 different fucking cryptocurrencies.
Yeah, it's pretty messed up.
And when like newbies come in, like they should know that like he was completely fucking wrong about that, right?
Did you guys know the latest craze of this bear market for Twitter accounts?
Nope.
A lot of crypto accounts turned into puppy picture accounts to get a bunch of followers, and they've since converted back to crypto accounts to shill crypto.
No. That's a long con.
Talk about chasing that clickbait.
Jesus. Do you know what it is? Is that I just say a lot of stupid shit, really stupid shit. And also a lot of the English banter doesn't travel well. So I'm posting shit sometimes I just think is really funny because I'm just being British. And people take it really literally. And then I have to defend it later on. And then other times I'm embarrassed. And so, yeah, I just put on tweet deleter after 40 days it's gone. And also, really, I mean, do we really need to go back every time? It's like that Black Mirror episode. Remember the one where every one of your conversations is recorded?
Well, so, yes.
I don't want that shit.
But Twitter is a public platform. Like, don't tweet don't tweet shit that you won't stand behind in a year. Like, that's ridiculous.
Not even that, though. I would disagree with that. I would say just, again, what's one of the big memes when I first got into Bitcoin was strong opinions weakly held, and people like parroted that for a while. Like, if you make a bad take in the past, like if you're willing to own up to it, like, yeah, I don't believe that anymore, I think that's perfectly fine as well.
Yeah, but I had the Ethereum guys, they found a tweet from 2017 where I said there was no doubt that the $90 million that Gavin Wood just lost will be returned to him, because there's a precedent set that when Ethereum founders lose money, they roll back the chain. Well, I guess it's not technically a rollback, but they they do a fork to reclaim the funds.
Switch the state.
Right? And they found that tweet 2 years later, and they started trolling me on the tweet. And the first thing I did was I trolled back because that's important. And then the second thing I did, I was like, it's a 2-year-old tweet. Like, I was obviously wrong. Here we are. It hasn't happened, right? Like, you don't have to have tweet deleter to do that. And then the third thing I'd like to say is my buddy Mr. Chach has a crypto deleted bot. So, like, we could kind of force your hand. Even if you still delete, we'll just put you on crypto deleted.
Yeah, do that. Is Gavin Wood the guy who has a very strange taste in writing?
Children?
I was going to say in written literature. He's just kind of made an attempt at being an author. Are we allowed to talk about this?
I mean, we're allowed to talk about whatever we want. Yeah.
So he was going to be at an event I was at when I was emceeing, actually. I'm pretty sure. And I was like, I'm not fucking sharing a stage with that guy. This hasn't been dealt with.
Yeah. I mean, I can't comment any further than the blog exists, and it was a little creepy.
Yeah.
He had like a blog that was like kind of
Very
pedo,
creepy.
right?
Very creepy. Yeah.
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 But Ethereum's the open and welcoming arms community.
You should not throw those grenades. I'm sure there's creepy people in Bitcoin as well.
There's plenty of, but my point is, there's plenty of creepy people fucking everywhere, right? Like the problem. The problem is when you say that it's a Bitcoin problem and pretend like it's not a problem in everywhere else, including all of these competing networks.
That's what I'm trying to make clear in this particular instance as well with Gavin Wood.
That's very good. I appreciate that.
So, do you think I should delete any of my old shitcoin podcasts?
No.
Well, if you're deleting the tweets...
I know you would say that. I'm asking. That's why I asked him. I know you wouldn't. I've been told, like, so for example, I'm not allowed on the Bitcoin only website because I've got old shitcoin podcasts.
Well, that would be the wrong reason to do it. But I think there's a good idea. Maybe branch out another channel and move all of your old shitcoin podcasts to like my old beliefs podcasts. You know, like
what Pete did,
or maybe you could add a forward.
Yeah.
You know, you can add like a little 5-minute forward, giving like a little bit color, maybe how your opinions change in certain ways or stuff like that. Like that'd be a good way of doing it.
It's important to see the transformation too.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I don't want you to delete the tweets in the first place, right?
Yeah.
Because I think, like, for instance, I mean, I love going back even for myself to see how I was communicating. But if I go back on Twitter to 2017 to try and see, like, where were we at that point? Like, there's just people in there, there's just breaks in all the threads where, like, motherfuckers who I was arguing with just deleted their fucking thing. And that's like a learning experience for everyone, that they should be able to see that. Like if you're going to waste my time and you're going to post this publicly on the internet for the whole fucking world to see, like, it should stay there.
It's starting to mess up my Ethereum will never transition to proof of stake thread. That's got a lot of holes in it right now.
A lot of deletes.
See, well, so that's another point. So do you think if you've got a Bitcoin-only podcast, it's okay to do a show which covers why Ethereum is junk and you should avoid it?
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously.
Okay.
No, I mean, and I got shit for interviewing Ben Hunt and, like, just not pushing back on him as hard as some people would have liked. And people are going to have their opinions.
I like that interview. That's like the most... I've said this in the past, like that's the most reasonable critique of Bitcoin, is that you think the state will overtake it. Because, well, first of all, if you're like a statist like Krugman, then like you trust the state as well as thinking it's omnipotent. And then like Ben doesn't trust the state. He just knows it's really fucking powerful. And like we all know the state's really fucking powerful. Like that's why Bitcoin's design decisions are exactly where it is, you know? Yeah, I mean, I went on a... Have you heard of the POV Crypto Pod?
Yeah.
Did you listen to our episode?
Possibly. Can't remember. That's Christian from Bitcoin Magazine.
It's Christian and David Hoffman.
Yeah. I know
and
that show.
David
This is a good
like,
show.
He's the ETH head.
Yeah.
And then Christian is the Bitcoiner.
Yeah.
Right? And so, like, I went on that show, like, to debate Bitcoin versus Ethereum and state resistance and whatnot. And I think that's, like, very informative. I mean, like I said before, like, I think all this shit is part of the Bitcoin ecosystem, like whether you like it or not. The important thing is like trade-offs need to be discussed. All these things need to be discussed. And especially when you were starting off, like a lot of the issue is that you didn't understand the trade-offs. You didn't know where to push back. So there was a lot of...
Still don't.
Like but you know better than before. There's like
Yeah.
a lot of baseless shilling that happens where they make claims that are like they're not factually based, and it's like really important that you push back in those situations.
Is Matt the most Bitcoin person you know?
Yes, I mean the most Bitcoin person I intimately know. Yeah,
I mean, we know a lot of Bitcoin people.
we
though.
do know. I mean,
I put you in that category with John Carvalho.
Oh well, that is just really flattering, and I really appreciate it.
If I was going to war for Bitcoin, I'd have you as a general.
All I know is I
would too.
surround myself on a daily basis with people that live and breathe Bitcoin. That's why, like, I completely understand the semantics at play when people say, like, there is no Bitcoin community. Oh, like, I loved what Pierre did where he flipped it. He was like, the USD community is really toxic. But like, Bitcoiners are fucking awesome. And at this early stage, which I still think we're really early, I think everyone forgets. I mean, and people realize, like, 2 years later that when we all come in, we always think we're late. It doesn't matter what time you came in. Everyone thinks they're late. We're really early. It's a very small subset of people that have it, and we tend to share a lot of the same values. So like, Bitcoiners are fucking dope. Like, they're awesome, and I think a lot of times when you find Bitcoin, especially now, like, you just end up living and breathing and Bitcoin. Like, everything is Bitcoin related.
is it the virus that Pomp said's been spreading? Is it a disease?
I like kind of both love that. I love that meme and hate it, because like, viruses are usually like bad.
I love Pomp.
Mine viruses aren't bad though.
But I give Pomp a lot of hard love, and I think he's become a better person because of it.
I put him in that category as net good. He's net positive for Bitcoin, and I'm also watching his tweets, and he's becoming more Bitcoin. You can tell he's becoming more Bitcoin. I'm seeing him tomorrow. I'll be having lunch with him, and
I mean, he's perfect at being like right under a tweet that is associated to Bitcoin in any way and being like, this is why you need a Bitcoin.
My biggest issue with Pomp,
Flame emoji.
and I've said this before, and I know he listens to these podcasts, so I think it's constructive criticism, and he's taken it, is like, there's so many reasons to be bullish about Bitcoin. We don't need to embellish things, because it hurts all of us when like large account promoters are embellishing different items, right? Like, a perfect example was like the AT&T BitPay integration or whatever, and he's like, the largest corporations in the world are accumulating Bitcoin, and like, AT&T is immediately converting to fiat with like one of the worst companies in the space. Like, so like, you know, there's plenty
he
of
won't know
reasons.
that though. He won't actually
But
know
he
the history.
should.
Well, no, you know what? I'll give him some defense there, because I didn't know they were one of the worst companies till recently. Sometimes you just, if you haven't heard it or been told it, then you don't
haven't
know.
been through the wars. You know?
Yeah, you don't know. And have you actually ever hung out with him?
Yes.
I've hung out with Pomp a couple times.
You've hung out with him, chatted with him.
Yes.
You should do a show with him.
Well, so I've actually
You should
I've
go
been
on his.
boycotting his show.
I hate for this to sound like I'm ditching this during the middle of the Pomp conversation, but I have a train to catch.
Okay.
I have to go. Thank you for
Right.
inviting
No,
me.
look,
Thanks for letting
always,
me crash.
man.
I crashed this podcast, by
Dude,
the way.
I asked you the other day. I wanted to
You were
record
invited,
you. I always
bro.
want
You
to
didn't
record
crash
You
you.
asked for tomorrow,
podcast.
but I'm not going to be here tomorrow.
Yeah, I know.
He
but-
asked
yeah.
me for tomorrow too, and we made it fucking happen.
Yeah,
and then we
yeah.
invited you. You did not crash the podcast, but anyway.
Well, you're always welcome in Bedford, but I think most likely it's me back here again.
I've never been to London. I need to get out to.
You need to come to
I need
London.
to come to the UK.
I've got your back, but like I'll be here again. I'm gonna be like my new shows come in. There's some other stuff coming. Like we'll do some stuff again, man.
Definitely.
And, love your show, man. All right,
Enjoy
dude.
the rest of your time in New
Right.
York.
This is gonna get really hardcore now because it's just me and Matt.
The
and,
pussy's leaving.
Bang bang.
bang, bang, bang. All right.
See you guys.
See ya.
Peace.
So we're out. Also, we're about to do Libra. You're gonna miss out on that. Next up, I get deeper on Bitcoin with Matt and Marty. But before that, I do have a message from my amazing sponsors. All right. Firstly, we're going to talk to you today about Accounting, the best crypto tax calculator in the market. I've been playing with it. I've been using it. It's so easy. I've got to say, I always love UX. I bang on about this all the time. But anyone who crushes UX, they're a friend of mine. And these guys are absolutely killing it. If you want to get your tax return sorted, if you're taking it seriously, you won't find an easier tool to use than Accounting. And also, they got some news. Dun, dun, dun. Yes. They've got a mobile app that's now available. Have you checked it out yet? You can manage your Accounting account on the move. You can do it when you're at Starbucks. You can do it on a plane, on a bus. You can do it at work while your boss isn't looking. You can manage your accounting account from anywhere. It's super cool. Track your portfolio, get insights from your investments and your coin locations. You've got live price feeds, and you've got historical portfolio history. It's available for the iPhone and Android. Just search for Accointing, which is ACCOINTING. If it doesn't come up, just add crypto to the end, but it'll work for me. But I know some others have had to use Accointing Crypto, but definitely go and check that out. Okay, today's show is also brought to you by Dropbit, and I know you guys love these. I've seen you tweeting it out. So many of you have downloaded it, and you know it's always positive feedback. People are loving it. So if you haven't downloaded it, why? Why not? Come on, go and check it out. It's amazing, and you never know. If you tweet me, I might even send you some Bitcoin. Okay, so why is Dropbit so amazing? Why do I think it's the best Bitcoin wallet available? Is it just because they pay me? Nope. I know it sounds like it is, but it isn't. It's just the easiest one to use. There's so many things you can do. It's like a Venmo for Bitcoin. You can paste the address, you can tweet Bitcoin, you can even send it to phone numbers. It's so easy. And they're hard at work on a bunch of new features. I tried to hook up a meeting with them before I left for this holiday, and they're like, no, Pete, leave us alone. We're working our balls off here. Leave us alone. We've got shit to do. So I will be catching up with them when I get back. I'm going to be finding out everything else they're doing. But come on, go and check them out. They are amazing. It's the best wallet you will find for your mobile phone for Bitcoin. It's available on the iPhone and Android. Just head over to dropbit.app, which is dropbit.app. That's dropbit.app, which is dropbit.app. I know you're just going to naturally hate Libra, but I'm wondering if there's any surprises in there. I want to know what you think of the Libra community.
The Libra community is just straight up toxic. Like, I don't...
What do you think of Libra? Honestly, do you see anything good in there?
Well, first of all, what I said from the beginning is I don't think it'll launch. I mean, I pegged it at 20% before the hearings.
Okay.
It's probably like about still 20%. I mean, it basically is they only launch if they bend the knee. And if they bend the knee, it completely proves why it doesn't compete with Bitcoin in the first place.
I never thought it would.
Yeah.
It's just, it competes with Bitcoin to the extent that if somebody may choose to use it to send some money, like using it for a remittance instead of Bitcoin. But I don't think it really competes. I think it's just another instrument in the financial system. I was talking about it. Who was I talking about it the other day? I think Alex Gladstein was saying there's essentially three types of money. There's the government money, there's now corporate money, which is Libra, and there's decentralized money. And if I had to put them in order of what I trust the most, I actually trust Facebook money ahead of government money. And the reason being, all I have with government money is a vote, which is another party that comes in and does the exact same fucking thing every time. But with corporate money, I essentially have an opt-out. If I actually think Facebook want to do the best. I think they know how fucked they are. They know what negative opinions people have of them. I thought David Marcus did a really solid job when he faced 6 hours of relentless attacks for Facebook's mistakes. That's not me saying I think it's going to be brilliant. It is going to be surveilled. It is going to be essentially just a fucking shitcoin. But I do think there's some benefits to it, and I do think it's better than government money.
I mean, it's a low bar, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I envision a world where there'll be plenty of corporate monies competing against each other. I also don't think like altcoins are going anywhere. I think there'll be plenty of altcoins in our future. Like with the birth of Bitcoin, we've unlocked this like free market of money that I think Bitcoin will always be on top of. It's like the reserve currency of the space. As far as corporate money goes, though, Libra is like a first shot across the bow. And because they do have to bend the knee, its effectiveness as like a competition to government money is going to be greatly reduced. Like they're going to, I assume, first of all, that especially the U.S. government, but probably other governments as well, in cooperation with the U.S., will have full surveillance capabilities over the network. And then the second thing is they probably will actually have, say on what the asset holdings are of, if they want to, they're not actually going to be like a private central bank because they're going to be like regulated into all these different things. But yeah, so I don't even think it'll be able to compete with like potentially future corporate monies. But it should be interesting. It'll definitely, if it gets launched, depending on, I mean, I'm not going to say definitely about anything about this shit, but it could educate users about some elements of how Bitcoin works. It might make access to Bitcoin easier. It might not. Like there could, for instance, there could be no addresses or anything. It could just be like type in a Facebook name to send. And then at that point, like, you're not really educating users farther than just sending PayPal or Venmo or Cash App or something, right?
But it's that all news is good news, right? It, historically is a very true statement, unless you're Epstein. All news is pretty much good news. And I always thought that, well, it has a chance of making people more aware of Bitcoin. And that was in the perfect case. It was proven. I don't think Trump would have tweeted about Bitcoin without Libra, but he tweeted about Libra and therefore Bitcoin. And therefore, we also had the hearings in front of the Senate and the House. Because of that, more people are now aware of Bitcoin.
Right, but I would have liked, I think all of that is net bullish, but I would have liked if, like, Libra basically forced their hand for that all to happen a little bit sooner than it would have otherwise. Like, one of my bull cases for Bitcoin is that I think Hillary was designed to regulate all this stuff, like she was born for it. And one of the beauties of Trump getting elected, it had nothing to do with his values or anything, but there was a distraction. They were focused on so many other things that the last thing on their mind was Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And because of Libra, it brought it back to the forefront because everyone fucking hates Facebook. So like I was like kind of upset by that, but yeah, everything's bullish for Bitcoin. We're pretty clear about that one.
Yeah. So how are you feeling right now? Like, we've been through a shitty bear market. A lot of stuff's been wiped out. Really incredible kind of 10 years now when you think about it. Like right now, when you look at Bitcoin and look at the market, how are you feeling about everything? What excites you? What worries you? What do you want to happen? Mike's yours, man.
I'm still in a bit of a state of shock about all the hearings and Trump tweeting about it and the Fed chairman saying Bitcoin's a store of value and Mnuchin saying that speculating on Bitcoin is okay is like a big validation. Even if he uses all the illicit bullshit arguments, he still is like, but if you buy it to speculate on it, you're completely fine. So
surreal as fuck, really.
Yeah, it really is. I was talking to someone else. I remember I used to do like my moon math in 2014, 2015 in that bear market was based off of $10,000. That was the moon. 10,000 is normal now.
Yeah.
Right? So just in terms of price, which is indeed the most important metric, I would say, that's fucking crazy. And then when you look at stuff like, Lightning wasn't even possible 2 years ago because we needed SegWit for it.
Yep.
And it's made great strides. Privacy on Bitcoin, which I've taken a very big stance on in terms of improving privacy, has gotten way more easy than a year ago. A year ago, it was fucking... The average person was just completely screwed in terms of trying to take back their privacy. And today we have thriving competition between software developers who are trying to make tools to make Bitcoin more private. We have a lot of private, soft forks in the works for Bitcoin, stuff like Schnorr and Taproot and stuff that will also further help Bitcoin. And I also, things like the CME. I'm still in shock that the Chicago Mercantile Exchange is trading Bitcoin. I'm still in shock that I thought Bitcoin was going to be made illegal. Like, in 2014, 2015, the consensus around Bitcoin was prepare for them to make it illegal. Like, one of the things people don't realize is part of why the HODL movement grew was, I knew me personally, I was scared that if I sold my Bitcoin, America was going to ban it, it was going to pump anyway, and I couldn't get back in, right? And I think that's grows less and less likely every day. Like as Bitcoin continues and they don't realize necessarily the threat that it poses and they don't act, it becomes more and more difficult for them to do any kind of lasting damage.
I think it's too late to ban it, to make it illegal. I know you could, and I know the government could. I just think it's too late. I think the opportunity to make it illegal was 4 years ago, 5 years ago, maybe even like 3 years ago. But now, you're thinking about the amount of businesses that would be destroyed. I think the natural path now is regulation. Just more draconian regulations. But I just can't see a blanket ban.
Right, but they could ban self-custody, which would be pretty bad.
But I just don't see that happening.
But that would be way more politically tolerable. If they said, no more self-custody, current exchanges will let you trade it just like Robinhood or Circle does, but you can't withdraw it. And then if you have Bitcoin outside of it, you have to declare how much you have, the addresses you have, and keep updating it with them. Otherwise, you're breaking the law. I think they'd be able to push that through if they wanted to, if they actually had the political willpower to do it. And like I said, I think this administration, we're very lucky in terms of that. Just in terms of that one microcosm, like forget all the other politics. In terms of Bitcoin, it is not high on their priority list. They're not going to try and make any big moves. So we have at least, like 2 more years here of more chaos before they possibly turn their focus on it.
Probably 6 years.
Yeah, I think he's going to win again, yes. We're just bullish for Bitcoin like everything else.
Yeah, but again, it's one of those situations I'm like, fuck, man, I don't want that. Okay, but look, let's imagine the scenario. Okay, they ban it. Imagine self-custody is banned. Do you declare your addresses? Because I know I don't. I mean, it's a weird thing to publicly admit.
I know, it might end up in a courtroom someday.
Yeah. I imagine people won't.
Well, what the move would be, theoretically, to declare some but not all.
But it's prohibition, right?
Well, the thing is, first of all, I'm a hypocrite, but I preach this all the time. Is like you should not tell anyone about Bitcoin. You should try and keep it on the DL as much as possible and reduce your attack surface in terms of them knowing that you're even involved in Bitcoin to begin with.
Okay.
We've both done a horrible fucking job with that.
Yeah.
If they do know that you have Bitcoin, then the play theoretically would be to declare some but not all.
Okay, but
because you need to give them a sacrifice, right? You need to be. They're not going to believe you if you're like, a boating accident. You know, I lost all my big. Like, fuck you. Like, no one's going to believe you, and you can't prove that you lost it. That's one of the issues with Bitcoin. Is you can't prove that you don't have access.
Yeah, me, Gregory Maxwell, Fluffy Pony. We're out on a boat.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, let's just imagine a broad scenario, not even personal. They ban self-custody. It still doesn't kill Bitcoin.
No, it doesn't.
I mean, they ban weed. Do you stop smoking it? No. If they banned alcohol, do you stop drinking? No. It's just a prohibition era. It kind of becomes a bit cooler.
One of the things is I don't think it's a threat to Bitcoin. I think it's a threat to American Bitcoiners or a threat to Indian Bitcoiners or a threat to wherever you are. And of course, as an American, like it's highly relevant to me.
But it will come with a premium then, and it'll be cash bought.
Right, of course. And then it's part of the beauty is if the longer they wait, the more Bitcoin holders we have, the more people who are willing to enter that black market economy, right?
Yeah.
So the longer they wait, the harder it'll be to enforce something like that.
But I also think we know in some ways banning could be kind of bullish anyway. I don't think it's realistic. I can't see it happening. The only threat I think to banning self-custody is if there was ever a move to have on-chain privacy, which again I don't think will come, but there's a reason Monero isn't on Coinbase.
But I mean, I think it would be the opposite, right? I think if we saw widespread bans, there might be more push for on-chain privacy. Because here's the issue, right? Most people are leaking way more information than they think they're leaking when they're using Bitcoin, right? So if you're like actively, so 2 things. First of all, if you think your government's going to ban Bitcoin, which I thought for the longest time with America, or ban self-custody at least, then you try and accumulate as much Bitcoin as possible because you want to get in before they don't let you get in anymore.
Yeah.
You know, you want to, I think like we might be in an era right now where you can get large amounts of Bitcoin for the easiest you could possibly get it. Like in terms of ease of access to get large amounts of Bitcoin and self-custody it yourself. So you want to take advantage of that now. But the second thing is, if you're going to then actively lie to your government about it, like those privacy tools better be fucking good because you make one, like right now, there's so much nuance to using Bitcoin privately that even people that know a lot about it fuck it up. And if you do one fuck up, like then you're in jail, then they're trying to confiscate your Bitcoin, take your Bitcoin from you, all these other implications.
Can you imagine going to fucking jail for using Bitcoin? That would be insane.
Yeah, but there's, governments have done plenty of insane things that make no fucking sense.
Of course, but it's still kind of like, whoa. Yeah, and that could be a lot of people who could end up in jail.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's not, especially if a large country bans it, like it's definitely not short-term bullish. Like that would be bad.
Well, I mean, they banned it in China. I mean, there was a price dip for like a day or two. But people still use Bitcoin in China.
But they never really did. they never like went for it. It was there was a lot of talk, there was a lot of this, exchanges moved offshore and stuff like that, but they never actually went for we're going to target known holders and try and put them in jail and do all this stuff. And also we don't know what's going on behind the scenes, especially for the large guys in China. Like there's a lot of corruption there. There's probably payoffs and stuff going on. But that's also to our advantage, right? Like as more politicians own Bitcoin, all these, it's like a sliding scale. It keeps coming down to like, will there be the political willpower to actually do any of this shit, right? Like you have to be very aggressive about it.
So how do you see the next few years playing out?
Well, the last few years played out like way different than I expected, right? So
kind of played out perfect.
I don't think they make any kind of moves. I think at least in America, like the whole congressional hearings and stuff were like extremely bullish for Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
We have I think he's a senator, Patrick McHenry.
Wow. Like you can't destroy it.
Saying we can't kill Bitcoin, that like we'd have to be more aggressive than China. China's super aggressive and we can't kill it.
Everyone who's tried has failed.
Yeah. So, there's a lot of like all that sentiment like makes it very unlikely to me for that to happen. And we've noticed like Bitcoin has been improving at a pace that I never fucking expected. And I think like once we pushed back all these actors who were like basically acting in bad faith and not legitimately discussing points and trade-offs and stuff like that, Bitcoin, we've been unleashed that we can improve actual things that are important instead of arguing about what the block size number is. And then Lightning, because of this layered solution, we're able to on Lightning they're able to just improve at an insanely rapid pace and not worry about consensus breaking changes and stuff like that. I was actually like a Lightning bear until December of last year. That I was afraid that people were putting too much eggs in the Lightning basket and it was going to blow up in our face. And I was proven wrong. And the beauty of that is because it was a layer, it didn't fucking matter that I was bearish on it, right? They could do it and we could see how it worked out and now I'm like a huge Lightning shill. Like I shill Lightning all the time.
So I'm not a bear. I'm more of a Lightning critic. I'm a bit of a Lightning critic. Okay, let me try and articulate my problems with Lightning. I just did with John Newbury, and then you come with the Matt Odell response. Okay, so I think the user experience on Lightning is 5x more complicated than the experience with Bitcoin. And I'm thinking of in terms of if I explain a friend how to use Bitcoin, it's actually not that hard. I can usually get them on board pretty easily. Lightning's a lot harder. Now, people explain to me that the complexities in the experience will be abstracted away, which is cool because I don't think anyone really needs to understand and want to care about channels or capacity. They just want to use it. Like they just use Bitcoin, right? So I'm like, okay, cool. And then people explain to me that you'll get to a stage with, say, a Lightning wallet where it will just be natural. You'll just buy Bitcoin and you'll have Bitcoin in your Lightning wallet, and that's great. What I don't understand is how someone will never know whether they're using Lightning Bitcoin or base chain Bitcoin, but also if we get to a stage where people are mainly using Lightning Bitcoin, right? Say someone wants to buy a bunch of sats and start using it for whatever purpose, do they actually own Bitcoin or do they have a loan?
They own Bitcoin. They own Bitcoin locked in a multisig.
But do they actually own that Bitcoin? Because what if someone closes that channel?
Then it would close and they would get Bitcoin to an on-chain address.
But they would then also lose a certain amount of Bitcoin. And what if they, what if we get to a stage where, and I'm throwing this at you purposely, what if we get to the stage where, say, fees, on-chain fees are, I'm not going to throw out the Roger Ver $50, but say maybe $10. And what if they had like $5 or $6 of Bitcoin, like sats, and the channel closes and they lose it to the on-chain fee? That scenario, I don't think anyone's ever given a proper explanation to that scenario.
So I would say two things. First of all, the first comment in terms of usability, I mean, that improves every day. I mean, have you used the Zap Light Wallet yet?
No, the wallet I've been mainly using is a Blue Wallet.
Right. So Zap is non-custodial, their Light Wallet, but it isn't a full node. So it's not ideal, but it's better than non-custodial. It uses neutrino filters that unfortunately right now I'm pretty sure only Lightning Labs is serving neutrino filters. Maybe Chain Analysis is also serving neutrino filters, but it's like a better version of a light client. So you can load up Zap right now on your computer, on your phone. Well, I'm not sure if they merged it on the phone yet, but you can definitely do it on your computer. It syncs within a minute. You can deposit straight from Cash App or something else into it. Then it takes one confirmation. You open a channel with a major node. And then like the vision is then at that point you do like a loop out and the channel gets balanced and you're good to go.
Okay.
So that should all take 20 minutes, 30 minutes tops. Boom, you're in.
You know, I'm just going to say that's too much for most people.
Right. And it will get even better.
Yeah.
But that's where we are right now,
Yeah.
which is crazy. I was bearish lightning in December, right? And what is it? It's July right now.
Okay.
So that's crazy. I mean, for instance, one way you could speed that up is if the exchanges are running Lightning and do withdrawals and process the withdrawals through Lightning.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. The second thing is the whole fee issue. First of all, the most important number is really not the fees in dollars. It's the fees in Satoshis. Mm-hmm. Because that's what you're holding. So like if the fees go up in Satoshis, then you can get stuck in that type of situation. Right? And I will once again fall back on my earlier statement, which is I think that if we hit a critical mass where there needs to be an actual upgrade to Bitcoin, that is a hard fork, like we will do it. There's no reason in debating this theoretical right now about having issues where basically channels become trusted instead of trust minimized because you can't actually close them out. You know, like certain payments will be lower than the fee threshold, so you can't close them out and actually recoup what has been sent. You know, so like that's something that we will explore in 2 years or 3 years or whatever. And if it is absolutely necessary, if people that actually like 98% of the stakeholders believe it, then you know, then we'll change things with Bitcoin. We'll increase the block size or do something like that. Once you realize that everything is driven by stakeholders acting out of greed in a system that is designed from the get-go to be highly resistant to change, like you're at peace. Like everything will work itself out because people are fucking greedy and they want number go up.
So the incentive structure works perfectly.
It works loosely and effectively. Right? I mean, I don't think like anything in this world is truly perfect. I think one of the beauties of Bitcoin's incentive structure is that it is so rough. And it's because it's simple.
Yeah.
And the simplicity is nice because complexity is like the enemy of security. There's so many issues that you have when things get really complex and outliers that you can't expect. So it's as complicated as it needs to be. And that rough consensus, that rough game theory, like will work itself out as we continue on.
Where does your conviction come from? Because like I said, you're about as Bitcoin as they get. Like John Carvalho's another one who's like that. Francis Poulier is like that. There's a few that are just, I think a few of you carry a very deep technical knowledge, firm conviction, but without being, I don't know, how do I explain it? Without being shilly. It's more conviction than shilly. You know, I shill. I see the way I promote things more shilly because I don't actually fully understand what I'm shilling. I trust things like you say or John says, or I believe in you, so therefore I believe in it. But you've got this deep conviction. Where's it come from?
Well, so John said something on our pod which I really resonated with, is that Bitcoin doesn't need us to shill. We're just by shilling, we're just hastening the process. We're making it quicker and cleaner. But like if we just all just like got off of Twitter and stopped shilling and stopped doing all this stuff, like Bitcoin would be fine and would grow and improve and all this thing, all these things would work themselves out. I mean I think it's just a matter of time. Like I think you spend so much time in this space, you watch all of this, you watch it grow, you watch the network handle all these external factors. You watch people come and go. You watch all the same tired arguments over and over again, and you develop this sort of conviction. And I think I think history has rewarded the people who have believed in certain things. They saw the writing on the wall and they believed in them, and they realized that they were, first of all, I feel extremely lucky that I'm at this place at this time. And like one thing I was talking about today is like there was people who had conviction in the New York City real estate market in the 1970s.
Stacking flats.
Yeah. First of all, I was really upset I didn't think of that. It was because it's British slang. I didn't know.
Yeah. It just got to me straight away.
But when I saw it, I was like, I should have thought of it. But I did appreciate that. But yeah, like there was people with conviction back then, you know, and people thought they were crazy. And here we are they're sitting on 30x, 40x, like some of the most primo real estate in the world. And they paid like $70,000 for a building that's worth $10 million today. So what happened there? They were in the right place at the right time, but they saw something and had conviction to dedicate themselves to it, right?
Yeah, but with you, this is more than just personal profit. I know that. Look, great. Bitcoin goes up, number goes up. Your value in USD goes up, you make more money, but there's something more to it with you. Like, your conviction is beyond personal monetary gain. I know that. I've hung out with you enough to know that. I've listened to you enough to know that.
No, it's definitely not just monetary gain. Yeah. That's like a really fantastic byproduct.
Yeah.
You know, I think, do I think that Bitcoin is like success is 100%? Like, no. Like, I don't think Bitcoin success is 100%. But I think we're fucked if it doesn't succeed.
In what way? Like, everything's just going to get worse and worse.
Yeah, like a lot of Bitcoin critics say like, oh, Bitcoin's too transparent, like it's going to become like a panopticon, like all this other shit. Like, we already live in the panopticon. The panopticon will happen if we don't have Bitcoin.
Right, listen,
right?
This is one of my dumb moments. This happened. This panopticon came up in a I've probably even said it wrong. Came up in a podcast I recorded yesterday. I don't know what it is.
So it originates from a prison design.
Okay.
Where the guardhouse in the center can see every cell.
Yeah.
Whether it was pre-cameras, so it was just designed in a way that their vision could see everything, so that as a prisoner you never knew, and you could do it with one-way glass. So as a prisoner you never knew if you were being watched, so you just assumed you were always being watched, right?
Right. Okay.
And that's what we live in today, and that's continuing and will get worse. Like, we see the precursors in places like China, authoritarian regimes, where they're already experimenting with this shit, pushing it even forward. But even in America, I mean, with the Snowden leaks, stuff like that, we have massive surveillance, and that is going to be the end result. That will be what our kids grow up in if Bitcoin doesn't succeed. So in my mind, it's a cause worth fighting that I also think is pretty inevitable. Like, high up on, like, I think like the risk reward ratio right now for Bitcoin, like if you, and that's why I always say like stay humble, stack sats. It's the distillation of that thesis, is that I think this risk reward ratio right now on Bitcoin is the lowest it's ever been. You know, like, people don't realize, like, oh, like, I wish I bought Bitcoin. Like, I mean, me, even when I got in, I wish I bought Bitcoin at $2 or whatever. The risk reward ratio at Bitcoin at $2 was way worse than it is today, because who the fuck knew what was going to happen?
Yeah.
You know, it was super easy, way more easy to kill than it is today.
Look, it says it here, dude. I wrote about down in my notes. Everyone early got lucky and are just defending their interest.
I have a beautiful tweet during the bear market at the bottom, and it was literally like 2 days from the dead bottom, which is, you know, you can't really hope for more than that.
When Kobe bought in again.
No, it was, I said 2018, Bitcoin is trending to zero, it's worthless, and then 2020, or maybe I did a little bit farther, like 2022, everyone who bought Bitcoin got lucky. Right. And like, that's what always happens. I mean, you see it like, just to harken back to New York City real estate again, right? Like, Trump and everyone else, they got lucky buying real estate in the 70s and the 80s. You know, like, is there a little bit of truth to it? Sure. Like, they were in the right place at the right time, but there was conviction. They fucking held, they improved, they held, and they shilled. And it came out, right? Like, that. It's like, there's so much conviction there. And to give people shit, like, every single person who's bought Bitcoin has either bought it with their own money fairly, or they
earned it,
or they mined it, which is also earning it. But they contributed work to receive the Bitcoin. So in my opinion, Bitcoin is the most fair ledger we have ever had in the history of the world. And I think that it can never be replaced because, I mean, Marty talks about this a lot. He's not here anymore because of that like immaculate conception. There was no one watching it at the time. So I'll even go even further from my earlier statement where I said, if there's a critical mass, the Bitcoin will fork to whatever that critical mass desires. I think that if a lot of people, you see a lot of Bitcoin stakeholders say like one of the threats for Bitcoin is like if there's like a 10x improvement, some random other technology that's like completely different than Bitcoin. I think that if that happens, there'll be a critical mass support of forking that project, which has to be open source. Otherwise, it's disqualified to begin with.
Yeah.
With the Bitcoin UTXO set, the most fair ledger that's ever existed in humankind. And so in that way, like if you own a piece of this ledger, like you're protected in that situation because that will have the network effect, that will have the credibility, and that will continue forward.
I interviewed Safety and the other day, and one of the things he said, which was quite interesting, never crossed my mind. He said, and I don't see this playing out, but he said one of the biggest threats to Bitcoin is government changing their policy and creating better money, realizing that they're fucked because of Bitcoin and having to create better money themselves.
Yeah, I mean, he's said that a bunch. That's
I
like
don't
one of
see it
his big
happening,
things.
but I think
I don't think that'll happen.
But
They move too slow.
Yeah.
They're too blind. There's just like, I don't see that situation. Like, where do we end up? Like, at that point, like, by the time they realize, it'll be too late. So I don't really see that. I mean, basically, he's like a true Austrian. And he believes, like, he likes gold a lot, right? Mm-hmm. I'm younger than him. I think gold's a shitcoin. Like, I understand where they're coming from, but gold is done now. Like, we have the 10x improvement. It's here. There's no way to transfer the gold's UTXO set over to Bitcoin. So they're just like fucked. And I don't see, governments are made out of people. There's a bunch of people in government that run that shit. They're all old. They can barely send emails. And and they're just super fucking cocky, right? Like, even we had Mnuchin, who I actually think probably owns a little bit of Bitcoin, even though he won't admit it. We had him on Squawk Box on CNBC with our boy Joe, who's fucking awesome. He's woke now. And then to go back to the Libra conversation, like, Libra made it click for him.
Yeah.
So that's a positive. Mnuchin was like, I'm not going to be talking about Bitcoin in 6 years. They're cocky.
Of course I heard him say that. Of course only out of choice, but it doesn't mean it's not going to be around.
But he doesn't. He either owns Bitcoin and he's like playing the OPSEC game, or he really believes that. And I think a lot of them do believe that.
Or he's playing the career role he has to play.
Maybe.
I mean, like, sometimes people say stuff they don't believe because they have to, because this is their job.
I mean, that's fair, but I think they're really cocky.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of reasons they should be cocky. If you look at history, there hasn't really been any very successful movements against this creeping state power that just keeps getting more and more powerful. I mean, we've had big wins. I mean, the whole encryption war was a very big win. We have more encryption today than we've ever had in the past. It's easier to access than ever before. But they're just super cocky. And they're living in this like little cocky bubble until they're not living in it anymore. And I don't see that transition period where they're like, well, we have to do better.
John, one of my favourite ever quotes, and it wasn't during an interview, it was just over a lunch. I had lunch with John Pfeffer. Do you know John?
Yeah, John's great.
This quote, it kills me. He said to me, I think it was this scenario, unless I read it somewhere else, but I'm pretty sure it was this over lunch. He said to me, do you really think in 100 years when we're all flying around in our Millennium Falcons, we're going to be transferring value with lumps of yellow metal?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think the point he's making is that every single technology advancement which is digitized an asset or a product, whether it's music, whether it's content, we've never gone backwards. I mean, some people still buy records, for novelty. I was
just about to say that.
For novelty, but they're still only a novelty, and because there's a purity in that product, and some people will still own gold.
And it's mostly virtue signaling.
Yeah,
right?
it's cool.
It's like, I have records.
It's so cool when it really is much easier to plug in your
Spotify,
phone, and play Spotify. But I get it. There's something nice about holding a vinyl, right? And there'll be something nice about holding a piece of gold. And do you know what? There'll be something nice about in the future when everyone has to have an automated car to go to a track and drive a car. There will be novelty facts.
Right.
But everything gets digitized, and the digitization of money is happening.
Right, those are all niche use cases.
Yeah,
they're not the mainstream.
It makes a lot more sense to be able... I mean, I love it when, like, you have a news story. Like, remember that plane where all the gold fell out of the back?
Right.
They're trying to move the gold, right?
I mean, that just looked like it was just like, what, did a Bitcoiner like set that up for
Yeah,
us?
it was fucking perfect. But you look at that, you go, actually, it just makes a lot of sense. You're flying at a huge cost, all this gold from one location to another. And look, I get it. Like, gold isn't going to go to zero value now, and there'll be a long time that gold holds value. But logically speaking, if we all agree that Bitcoin has value, it makes a lot more sense. The Bitcoin is digital gold makes a lot more sense.
I mean, but look at like the gold value prop, especially for nation states, is that like if you're a pariah state, you can still maintain your economy. But then if you just have someone like Venezuela who all their gold is stuck in London and
Yep.
they can't get it back, right?
We're not giving it back.
And that's because it's so costly to move, so you end up in these custody situations, right? Like one of the beauties of Bitcoin is that it's a defensive technology. It's easy to store and secure yourself.
Well, we're
So-
refusing to give it back.
Right, but that's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
right? Like like Bitcoin's so easy to store yourself that you don't get stuck in those situations where you have billions of dollars like in another country because it's so costly
Yeah.
to move. Like that's why they didn't move it 10 years ago is what I'm saying. That's
Yeah,
why
yeah.
it stayed there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I the other tangent that the thought process that I like going down, the future thought process that I like going down is do you ever watch Black Mirror?
Fuck, I've seen every single
Yeah.
episode.
So like uploading your like San Junipero or whatever, like uploading your brain into like a cloud type of situation to live kind of forever, like uploading your consciousness or like moving to new bodies and stuff like that. Like you kind of need a digital native bearer asset if you want to bring your wealth with you. You know, like I kind of really like I like that argument. You can't bring the gold with you into the cloud, but you could bring your Bitcoin with you.
Do you know what? The latest series of Black Mirror is a bit of a disappointment.
It was
The
really
three,
weak. It was
yeah,
really weak.
3 episodes. They weren't great. I'm trying to remember. I can't even remember what they were, but
They were so bad.
yeah,
They were very bad.
God, do you even remember which ones they were? There was the Twitter one. Actually, that was quite interesting because they basically did a Jack Dorsey.
I don't remember them.
That was the guy.
They were so bad. I don't remember.
It was
them.
the guy who was out on the silent retreat, and the other guy was in his car, and it turned out he'd crashed while tweeting while driving.
Oh right,
essentially.
right.
So there was that one.
And he killed his
girlfriend that he
yeah,
loved.
Spoilers.
Yeah, sorry about everyone.
It wasn't a very good
Yeah,
episode.
it was
Don't
terrible.
watch it.
I did like Bandersnatch though. I found that interesting.
I like the concept, but I thought it was like lacking on execution. But I like the idea. I like the idea that Netflix is like flexing their capabilities as both a worldwide TV network and that they have like full creative control and you have a controller in front of you so you can do things. Right.
Well, I assume the money went into Bandersnatch, and the other 3 they kind of rushed out.
Right, and that's why they pushed them out by themselves.
Yeah.
And stuff. But the early Black Mirror was like fucking gold. Like
What's
the
your
whole
favorite? You got give me 3 that shows that you absolutely love. I've got a personal favorite. Like I'll throw you my personal favorite. It's Metalhead with the dogs.
Which one was that?
With the robotic dog.
Oh, yeah,
Metalhead.
that was really
I just
good.
love that
Yeah.
one. I absolutely love the show where Crocodile, where they can look into your memories and see what happened. Her and a guy had been driving the car. They knocked the guy off his bike. They threw him in the water, and then she ends up at some other place in the hotel room. She sees a car crash outside. Do you remember that? The memory, the insurance, that one.
The insurance one where they could audit your memory,
Yeah.
right? And it was like an investigation. They
Yeah.
went through. That was good.
That blew my mind, and I absolutely loved the first one actually with the Prime
Was that
Minister.
the pig one?
The pig
That's
one.
what I was going to say first. That was my favorite one.
Because that's Tony Blair.
And how does that not happen yet? How have we not had a copycat? Can
know.
we please have a copycat? Can someone do that? Like it's so easy to execute.
But it won't happen because it's falling prey to terrorists, right? You don't ever do it.
I don't know. He was like they did a good job of
I
like
know.
balancing those two things. He didn't want to, and then he was like and especially with the UK, where they went with the royal family. There's like a special
Yeah.
combination there where it works really well. But you could do it with like. I mean, I don't like this. That's like fucked up to theorize, but you could do it with like a family member or something. It could have that kind of effect. I'm surprised we haven't seen any copycats.
I'm surprised we haven't seen some kind of digital money version of Black Mirror, some kind of episode touching on. I don't know what the subject would be, but
Well, That's one of my big things is I love sci-fi, and I
Yeah.
find sci-fi unrealistic now if they don't have Bitcoin connected to it, because it's like, why are we 20 years in the future and not everyone's using Bitcoin? It doesn't seem very realistic to me. My favorite episodes were I like the pig episode. I liked the bees episode. I thought was really good.
The bees.
They had the automated bees. The bees were, I think they were controlling bees basically, and then there was like a hack, or someone compromised it, and it was in Britain, and they used the bees against the populace. They were like
Why do
killing
I not
people
remember
or
this?
something
I've
like
seen
that.
every episode.
It's a very good episode.
Makes me think I've missed one.
There was a lot of episodes. I really liked the one where the soldiers thought they were like killing non-humans.
Yeah.
I thought that's probably definitely going to happen.
Yeah.
The San Junipero one was really good. I thought because I think like that could happen too, where we are like uploading consciousnesses and saving them and re-uploading. And like they missed that next step, but I think that next step will happen as well, where you like pay someone for their body and like they get upgraded. It's kind of fucked up when you start thinking about it. But.
Yeah, it does when some of this sci-fi stuff comes true. I mean, look, the social scoring is happening. The social score episode is happening in China.
Yeah, but see, I didn't like that episode as much because it's like here, right? It's like you weren't that creative, right? Like you need to have like some of them like they found. Oh, the other one I really liked was the exchange. Oh no, he was a backpacker and he was in UK and he was testing out the game, like the super high, the really realistic horror game.
Oh shit, yeah.
And he like
with
died in the simulation or whatever.
Yeah, he had like a seizure.
Yeah, I mean, I also watched that while I was backpacking, so it was extra scary. But yeah, that was a really good episode.
All right, man. Well, listen, we've gone way off tangent. We've I've got to get back over to Manhattan. I could talk to you for fucking hours. So a couple of things to finish on. Firstly, thank you for doing this. Thank you for that conversation we had where I was deliberating about the podcast. It really helped. Thank you for everything you do. I've learned a lot from you. Really appreciate everything you do. Viva la Bitcoin. Tell people how to stay in touch, how to follow you. Tell them how to follow your amazing podcast that you make with, he's not here, Marty. And yeah.
I mean, first off, I want to say I consider you a friend. I'm like very grateful that I got to meet you. I think you mean well. It's been great watching you grow in this space. I'm glad we made this happen.
Yeah.
It was on very short notice, so that's fucking dope. It's our first time actually recording in person. I hope it's the first of many.
Yeah, we'll definitely do this again.
And just to everyone else, like, just shake out the noise, focus on the signal, stay humble, stack sats, don't overextend yourself, and just realize that we're in this for the long game and that this is like a really important mission here, and like really like we're kind of fucked otherwise. I love all of you guys, and you can follow me I'm on Twitter at Matt_Odell, and our podcast is Tales from the Crypt. That's tftc.io. You could just search Tales from the Crypt on your favorite podcast app.
All right, Matt. Well, listen, yes, that's appreciate you, and yeah, viva la Bitcoin.
Cheers, dude.
Cheers, dude. All right. So, what did you make of that? Did you enjoy that? I know you all love Marty and Matt. I know you love their show. It is amazing, and it's great to get them both on together. I'm going to do it again. Every time I get the opportunity, I'm going to sit down with these two guys and just talk Bitcoin, drink whiskey. I mean, what else could you want? If you haven't checked out that podcast, please do. It's flipping amazing. I've got links to it in the show notes, so definitely go and check that out. And yeah, it was great to just sit and talk. It was awesome to get an idea of how they try and get engagement in their show, marketing ideas, and talk about clickbaiting, the kind of things that us podcasters think about. And, you know, we all want to grow our shows, but we have to try and do it in an ethical way. We don't want to do bullshit things. So I always like talking to other podcasts about it and kind of the things they go through and kind of sharing ideas. And a lot of that goes on behind the scenes as well, which is kind of cool. Yeah, it was great to talk about SegWit again. Everything happened. Talk about contentious forks. You know, what could happen in the future, what might split the community. You know, I'm going to be looking back at SegWit at some point. I'm going to be doing my own kind of summary of what happened, get some interviews together and do some kind of recap, which I can't wait to do. Yeah, and it was a shame Marty had to go early, but it did allow me to get some time with Matt alone to go full on Bitcoin with him, but I will definitely get Marty on again in the future. Anyway, big thanks to both of them, and make sure you do check out their show, Tales from the Crypt and the Rabbit Hole Recap. I'm on holiday, so I'm going to keep this short. I'm kind of waffling on now, not really making much sense. But anyway, look, if you've got any feedback, it's hello@whatbitcoindid.com. And also, if you want to support the show, there's loads of things you can do. I'm not going to go through it now because I need to go to bed, flying out to Vietnam tomorrow. But if you do want to do it, just head over to whatbitcoindid.com, click on the support section, loads of stuff. You can leave reviews, you can subscribe, you can become a patron. It's all there. All right, hope you're well. Let's hope Bitcoin keeps rattling. Take care. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.